part of defining, the campaign's goals and objectives, and therefore the strategy that's going to allow us to, define our success is, and this is very hard to do, but to take into account the devices that our target audience is using, but also have to account for how people actually like to participate with the devices and the actual experience that we're developing. So, you might have some demographics that have no problem purchasing a product from a smartphone. You might have some audiences that prefer to do it on an iPad. You might have some audiences that prefer to do all of their research, gain their education on these on-the-go devices, on their smartphones, on their tablets, but wait until they get home, until they're in their convenience of their own home, where they can actually go into more detail and then purchase the item. Or you might have an audience that actually likes to do the research, but then prefers to go in store so that they can touch the product, feel the product, and make their ultimate decision there. So, really what it comes down to is having all of these touch points, all of these mobile touch points out there that are always accessible to our target audience. And the reason for that is because it allows us to have the most influence for their research and their knowledge. We have a demographic in today's market that are very self-educating. They take these smartphones, they take these tablets, these iPads, they learn all there is to know about products, they read reviews from their peers, they compare prices, and what it comes down to is the more touch points that we have out there available and the ability to control the environment in which they experience, the more likely we are to have a greater influence and to ultimately drive the target audience to that final decision, which may be a purchase on the smartphone, on an iPad, from e-commerce on a desktop or laptop, or actually drive them in store. Driving the consumer based on their perspective, their preferences, comes down to the mobile influence that we have out there in the market. And it's actually supported by the numbers that we're seeing today, where we can see the difference between mobile commerce, the amount of people that are actually purchasing on an m-commerce site, versus e-commerce, which still today is significantly more than mobile commerce sales independently. But what we are seeing is the ROI from mobile influence to drive in-store is significantly greater than both of ththose other platforms, that being m-commerce and e-commerce. So the mobile influence ROI, I think today, is around $688 billion. Today, it's just as important as it has always been to continue along the lines of traditional marketing. That, being, channels like your ad inserts within publications, brand awareness from billboards and wallscapes, even to your out-of-home collateral, which could be point-of-sale collateral. I mean, the one thing you can say about best practices is never to just dive into a technology, to say, our brand has done it, and to associate yourself with being innovative. Because what we have seen in the past is, there have been brands that, when QR codes were, more new 5 or 6 years ago, we had brands that were, placing QR codes wherever they could that would redirect a user to an experience that was not fit for this new era of mobile devices. And that was one of the things that turned consumers off from almost utilizing mobile triggers like QR codes. And they almost got a bad rap because it wasn't doing anything for them. For some brands, the best it was doing was driving them to a generic website that was actually fit for a desktop computer, right? And that's not the way we need to participate with our target audience. It's not the kind of dialogue we want to open up for them, because what we want to do is create these more simple, specific to a call to action and prompt experiences that they can engage with for the reason that they were actually engaging with in the first place. The last thing we want to do is have a consumer have to navigate through a website for something they were looking for in the first place.